We're back to another episode of Beyond Tomorrow. Mo, my man, you are out of pocket, out of office. You can tell
I
I
am.
am too. You doing okay?
Yeah. I am here in Cary, North Carolina, visiting my sister, brother-in-law, my two nieces. So yeah, we came here yesterday, and going to spend a few days here, just quality family time. How about
Oh, that's
yourself?
good.
How's the trip going?
Yeah. So we are currently in Colorado. So we have, for those that have been following, we went north to South Dakota, then over to Montana, and into Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And we're going to spend this last, week or so here in Colorado before we head back to Georgia. And man, to be honest with you, I'm going to say my favorite place so far. Jackson Hole was nice. Okay,
Okay.
I wish we would have had a few more days there. But Mo, Montana was spectacular. It
Really?
was like, yeah, to me, it's like it's paradise. It was God's country. It's beautiful. Um, we spent a lot of time in Big Sky. Did a lot of fishing just outside of Big Sky on the Gallatin River,
Okay.
and then also got to see some family in Ennis. And it's just, you know, it's crazy because when you live in a big city, and we don't live in a big city, but when you're in the suburbs of a big city,
Right.
you drive around, you got the traffic, you got so many people, and you kind of get into this mentality like, man, it is a crowded world we're living in, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want to challenge that thought, hit the open roads, hit the open roads in the Midwest. Man, there's nothing
Oh.
crowded about this earth. Let me tell you, we drove miles without seeing a house, a soul, nothing. I mean, it was, yeah,
That's
pretty
awesome.
incredible.
That's awesome.
Pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. From the pictures you sent me and Amy has sent. That's just a part of the country that I've never been to. I don't think Amber's been there either. So we're gonna make
Hmm.
an effort to go at least one of those places next year. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I mean, those pictures don't even look real. I mean, it looks like a
Yeah,
photoshopped backdrop, but that's like, but you're right. It's God's country.
it's a must, man. I think everybody needs to, and in some aspects, it kind of correlates with with the topic of the book that we've been covering too, because kids and adults, truthfully, in my opinion, man, it need to take some time to get out in creation, in this the beautiful world that we get the opportunity to live in and just enjoy it, the serenity of
Hmm.
it. It's quiet, being on a river. My dad was I wouldn't say avid, but he was definitely a big fisherman, loved trout fishing, loved it. And so to get out on that river just by yourself, catching fish or
Hmm.
not catching fish, it's a pretty special place.
Well,
It's good for the soul.
good for the soul.
Hey, so before we jump in though, today, not today, but this week, July 4th week, and so just a big special thanks from Mo and I to all of you guys that have really sacrificed time away from family, sacrificed your physical body, your mental health, and exposing yourself to a cause for our freedom.
Mm.
I just I don't know if even words can explain it. I think we're just super thankful for everybody that has served
Right.
on our behalf.
On our behalf, for our freedom, for our independence, for the ability to live in this free country, and rights and freedoms that are some may take for granted, right? Because we've been in this world, in this country for so long with all these rights, but there are other countries where they don't have that liberty. And so, for again, like you said, for those who've served and continue to serve, and bless us to be in this space where we have the ability of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and all the rights that we have as a community. Definitely, big thanks for all you've done and all you continue to do to
Yeah,
keep us safe.
100%, man, 100%. It's it we can't take that for granted. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It shouldn't be just once a year. We should really spend more time when we look at that flag, whether it's a sporting event or whatever, and just remember that, hey, this came at a price, Um, well, so let's jump in the anxious generation, Mo. On our show, our goal is to really cover not a wide range, but topics that are involving finance, family, faith, or maybe I said that completely in reverse, faith, family, finance. If there's a priority to
If
it,
there's yeah.
yeah. And in this summer though, we kind of embarked on this book, The Anxious Generation, and to me, so far it's been a huge eye opener into really some challenging thoughts for Amy and I as we parent our boys, and just, hey, is there some cleanup that needs to be done? Have we given our kids too much access? Have we allowed our kids to have access to a phone and to social media too soon? And, just to work through this content together, I hope it's been beneficial for others, but it definitely has, it's challenged me, in a lot
Hmm.
of ways. And so I wanted to, before we jump into the chapters we're going to hit today, I want to go back to last week. We were talking about, I believe let me just get the puberty and the block transition to adulthood. I was, having two boys going through this transition as we speak.
Hmm.
Okay. I kind of went back and it was just, we went through some bits and pieces of this chapter, but I wanted to kind of jump back into this and just hit a few statements and then discuss it. So it says here, puberty is therefore a period when we should be particularly concerned about what our children are experiencing. Um, he talks about how in our brains and in the development of our minds that there's a season as we go through puberty where he compares it to like concrete. I don't know if you remember that
Right.
when you were
Yeah.
reading it.
Hmm.
And he talks about how, if you're messing around with concrete and it's super wet, you can literally put your hand in it, take it out, and it kind of goes back to a smooth surface.
Right.
But there comes a point as it's really close to becoming hardened, that state, if you mess with it, it kind of, fixes itself into that position. And
Right.
he compares that to going through puberty. And in the area that I really wanted to hit on is this topic of experience blockers and let me get it pulled up here. The oh shoot, hold on. The rites of passage. Okay, so because we've been on a road trip, Amy and I have spent a lot of time, discussing just a lot of things. This being one of them. Rites of passage, Mo. So I would, the stories that he gives, like back in the day. I'm sure when you became a man, it was like an incredible experience, right? When you
Right.
turned age 13 and you were a part of some like tribal community, or maybe just a different ethnic group, that was a big deal. It was
Hmm.
no, it wasn't like this 16th birthday party you see on TV shows,
Right.
where but it was a big deal, man. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a ceremony, it was weekends, it was time away, and
Hmm.
it was almost like a line in the sand that said, "Hey, man, you're a man at
Right.
this point, and you're gonna act like it."
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and it was he mentioned the tribal dance of when a girl transitions to a woman, and how the community got together and really
Hmm.
recognized the fact that, okay, those childish behaviors, you leave them behind because now you are entering this new stage of your life. And you're right. I mean, it was something that was recognized from the individual themselves. And I feel like, a sense of ownership or a sense of being proud that you are now transitioning into this new stage. And now the community understands as well. And so, you know, what he's saying is that we've kind of abandoned in this culture this type of rites of passage. Hasn't really
Hmm.
been much celebrated. It's almost like an afterthought. from the transition to even just driving, for instance, right? Yes, 15, 16, depending on what state. Yeah, that's a big deal, right? But it's not
Hmm.
necessarily as celebrated as it can be. And so, at what point do we look at transitioning our children into making it an actual big deal? Like, hey, you are no longer a child, right? These new responsibilities
Hmm.
that are being placed on you, let's as a family or as a community or as a culture really celebrate it, so you do understand that there is a line in the sand that you mentioned of this new age, this new world, this new responsibility that you have, as opposed to everything just being thrust upon you.
Yeah, and really, even when you and I were growing up, like it wasn't, maybe it was already somewhat diluted as far as the rites of passage, but it was
Right.
still, there were still some defining, things that you look forward to growing up. That, hey, when I turn age 13, like, as a kid, you're like, okay, now go see a PG-13. Mom can drop me off at the
Right.
movies.
Hmm.
At 6 p.m., not pick me up till later. Now, you snuck into a rated R movie. That was something different, but you bought the PG-13
But
ticket.
these
You
tickets,
were
right?
proud to buy the ticket. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Um, and then of course you're right. 15, 16, you're driving, you get the freedom or whatever. You could now go watch a rated R movie type of thing. I'm not saying you were allowed to. I'm just saying parents allowed it, that you could
Right.
do it.
Right.
um, but with social, not just social media. This is probably a statement inclusive of all access to the web. Um, what he says here is there is no equivalent to movie ratings such as PG-13, R, and X in the online world. Social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok don't enforce their minimum age of 13. Children are free to do as they please and to play video games and exchange messages and photographs with unknown adults.
Right.
Pornography sites are also welcoming children as long as they click the box that says they're 18. Porn sites will
Hmm.
show them how to have sex long before they've ever had their first kiss. Once a child, this is the statement, once a child gets online, there is never a threshold age at which she is granted more autonomy or more rights. On the
Wow.
internet, everyone is the same age, which is no particular age.
That's
That's wild.
that's that is well, and that's true. I mean, if as long as you have access to internet, you can pretty much view any site that you want. And
Hmm.
kind of as prime example, yesterday, um, I forgot. My sister wanted me to bring this particular wine for her, so we can drink while we're here, and I forgot, completely forgot about it. And they don't sell it in North Carolina. And I was like,
Oh,
I
no.
was like,
Drop the
I was like,
ball.
yeah, no, I dropped the ball. And I was like, there's no way they have to sell it here. So I went on the website, and the first thing it asks is to enter your birth date. And it kind of reminded me of this of the page we read of the chapter we read last week. And I was like, I can literally just put any age as long as it's over 21, and it's going to allow me to view this site. And
Hmm.
so when the comment about the porn site, literally you just put any age that it says that you have to, whether it's 18 or 21, and then you put it in, and then here you go. You have all the access right there in front of you. And so, yeah, there is no age range, right? There is no, well, you can't view this site and have some type of true marker, true, um, uh, anything of reference, anything checking, validating, right? There's no validation really. It's just
Hmm.
maybe to cross their T's and dot their I's. They can have an excuse of saying, well, yeah, we did our best to filter the ages, but really, I mean, all you did was allow them to put some random age in there, and as long as it fits the right age date range, they're in. And so
That's exactly right.
the rights of passage of the internet is completely gone.
Well, and you think back, like, even when we were kids, there was we talked a little bit about this several weeks back, but there was such a community that was connected together in raising, kids. you thought, okay, well, most teachers, no, I'm not, obviously there's always an odd one out there, but, most neighbors, had a similar care and concern about children and the kids in the neighborhood. Most teachers were the same way. And so you think like, okay, well, and in the real world, Mo, I think and I say real world is in like just normal life. I feel like that in certain areas is somewhat true. You know, right now where we live, our kids in school, I mean, I definitely fully trust, that the teachers at my kids' school are going to do what they feel is right. And I would assume that for the most part, that's going to be in line, at least in open hand items, in line with what I would think and handle and that type of thing. But in the virtual world, the community's not there, you
Right.
know? Nobody, matter of fact, it's yeah, it's just not. There's no protection. It is full autonomy and it's full access. And no more can anyone be reliant or dependent on the fact that, okay, they're going to be safe because no one else is actually going to be out there to harm them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not like sending your kid to school where you just trust they're going to be protected and safe, right? And once again, I
Right.
know there's been situations where that's not the case, but online, it's like it's almost certain that they're going to be attacked. Almost certain that if you give a 16-year-old boy a phone and you give him social media, that you are guaranteeing that your child is going to be challenged, attacked, and facing, things that otherwise he would never have to face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. 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 It's eye opening to say the least,
mhm.
right? I mean, it's when you read the statistics and you see how much is actually all the activity that's going on, all the negative speak, the bullying, the negative comments, and the impact it's having on adolescents, and it's just eye opening. It's just at the. I mean, there's no other word I can think of, but besides eye opening, alarming. There
It
aren't
is.
there aren't any filters. There aren't any true outside of actually parents actually taking the bull by the horn and actually saying, okay, we're either going to limit your access overall to social media, or really put these guardrails in place. But even that's challenging too. Maybe not only are kids facing these challenges, but parents are too. I mean, it's chapters before
Yeah.
talks about the distraction that parents are having with connecting with their children, right? Because they themselves are distracted with social media and not really
Hmm.
investing that time and that quality time to make sure that their kids are having an experience at social and in the social media world that would align with the progression of their development.
There's
You
so
can't
much.
expect these big companies to do that. I mean, that's not their
No.
priority. That's not their goal.
Well, and let's just be honest, it's not their responsibility either.
True.
Um, it is, there's so many other factors that's outside of this book that goes to the well-being of our children. And matter of fact, I would actually say that, social media is social media, which is what this book is predominantly focused on, although extremely, extremely important, is still far down the priority list of what is necessary for children to become healthy adults, you
Right.
know? And so definitely it's a part of it, but it comes down to parenting more importantly, I think. Chapter 5, Mo, and chapter 6, uh, you know, we're talking about social deprivation, basically the harm here, social
Yeah.
deprivation, sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation, and
Oh my.
addiction.
Oh my God.
Um, this is all covered in chapter 5. It's a lot here, but there's a few things I want to kind of bring to life that just kind of hit me right out of the gate, and then I'll throw it to you. Sleep deprivation. Okay. Now, you and I talked a few weeks ago about whether or not a adolescent child should have the freedom to sleep in the summertime.
Right. Right.
This is
Right.
interesting. So I kind of feel guilty. I'm reading this, and he's talking about, how a kid going through puberty, you know, going through those adolescent years, how their physical bodies, it is absolutely necessary for them to get, you know, good quality sleep. And so anyway, I don't know. I felt kind of guilt. I felt kind of guilty because I'm like, man, get your butt out of bed. What are we doing? Drew's
Yeah.
like, Dad. Drew's like, Dad, I told you I need my sleep, man. I'm like, well then, you know, of course my response is, well, go to flip and sleep early. What are you doing? Go to bed at 8 if you need to, but you're still getting up
Oh,
at a decent time.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I read that and I was like, oh, there you go, Andrew. Kids need sleep, but you're right. I mean, it's they do need sleep, right? I mean, it's just like anything, right? Even those that work out, go to the gym, right? Want to be physically fit. There's three areas of that cycle. It's actually the physical activity, it's the diet, but one of the also main things is sleep. You need sleep for your body to recharge, to just get ready for the next day. And
Hmm.
if you are the problem, one of the problems with being connected 24/7 or having the ability to be connected 24/7 with a phone is you can take that phone in your room and either on social media watch Netflix, watch a movie, whatever, play a video game, and and you can be on that thing all day. And if you're doing that
Hmm.
during school, during the school season, well, if you're going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning and you get to get up at 6:30 to go to school, that's 5 hours of sleep. I mean, the average teenager is spending 7 hours per day outside of school on screen, right? School related activity on screens, right? So that's bleeding into the later hours in the evening. And so, there's so many studies about blue light, the blue light effect, right? Blue light causes your body to stay awake, right? It
Hmm.
keeps it stimulated. So if you're trying to go to bed and you say to yourself, "I'm just going to watch a movie to fall asleep to," well, your body, you're basically telling your body, "I'm staying up." Your body's not even shutting down, and so it
Hmm.
it leads to, you know, cognitive function, effects on academic performance, effects on your overall mental health, accidents, everything about not having enough sleep leads to just a poor lifestyle. And I
Yeah.
think I
And
think you and
poor,
Amy, didn't you and Amy implement recently that at the end of there's a certain time frame where the kids phones are either going to be in your room or be in a separate room.
yeah. Yeah, and so we also so that's also coordinated when their phones shut down. So basically our rule is also reinforced by the settings on their phone. So yeah, I mean, and I feel like, this is probably true for kids and adults. Like at the end of the day, how many of us as adults are sitting there late at night and, you pick up the phone for no good reason. You start scrolling. I am such a, I'm speaking to myself here. And then you find yourself just, whether it's social media, YouTube, or you're just reading stuff. It doesn't have to be bad, it could be
Right.
just good stuff. But next thing you know, you got in bed at 10 o'clock and now it's 11:45 and you're like, what the heck? I gotta get to bed,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Um, so the, I think really there should just be a mass mandate across the country, across the world, where there's no phones in the bedrooms. Period.
It just like shuts
None.
down as soon as you walk into your bedroom. It just like it's just like automatically shuts down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
I know.
phone. No phones in the bedrooms. And what we did is, we eliminated the excuses of, well, I don't have an alarm. Well, we bought an old school alarm. So now
Mhm.
there's alarms in each of our kids' bedrooms. We have one. Forget the whole charging, all these chargers that are everywhere that nobody can keep up with anyway. Well, if your phone is going dead halfway through the day, you're probably using it too much as a kid anyway.
Right.
Okay. So we bought a charging station. Sorry, I can't communicate. A charging station where all the phones go to They all get plugged up and charged. And we eliminated this whole, you can have a charging, cord in every room next to your bed. Now
Right.
that's out too.
Right.
That's
Right.
gone.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I think New York is either they're about to pass a bill or they did. I think they actually did, where they're limiting. I don't know how they're going to do this, but they're limiting the notifications for children under a certain age. I think it's under 18, I believe. And social media apps aren't allowed to send those notifications throughout at a certain time frame. And so when we start thinking about the addiction, which was one of the four um, impacts of social media,
mhm,
one was addiction. And if you think about all the notifications that you get throughout the day, it just keeps you addicted, right? You get that little hit of dopamine, and so they're really trying to put a stop to these push notifications throughout the evening. Because another thing that parents are saying or stating is that during the evening, even if the child is trying to go to bed, they get this ping, they get this notification, and it disrupts their sleep patterns, right?
mhm,
And then they hear it, they
yeah.
wake up, they go to the phone, check it, and then it may be a mindless, endless stroll again. And all of a sudden, an hour later, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and they have to go to school the next day. So,
So I wanna throw something out there on that because the when he talks about the addiction, he also made a reference of a study that was performed on cats, and it was basically this study where these cats every single day, the same time of day or whatever, are put into this space where they have to perform a task to get a reward. Okay, and when they do that, as they do it consistently, what it does is it creates a smooth pathway in the brain.
all right,
Okay, and what it boils down to is the cat, or in essence the child or the whoever the person, is looking for the reward, and now has built in a smooth way of, going to that source to capture what is the reward, ultimately that dopamine hit. I don't know if we've been
yeah,
on road trips, so we hadn't been at church, but the week before last, if you were there, I don't know, but you should go back and listen to the message. James actually talked about this, and how, we still have the ability to change, but addiction, and a lot of that comes from that smooth pathway that's being discussed. So I kind of think of it as like, as an example for an adult. Have you ever, I know you've probably done this, Mo. I know, at least surely I'm not the only person. Have you ever walked into the kitchen and maybe you're not even really hungry?
oh yeah,
So
I know exactly
you
what you're talking.
find you find yourself with the fridge open, looking, but you don't even know what you're looking for because you're really not even hungry.
Right,
You're just kind of like scanning. And then you go to the pantry, and then you go back to the fridge as if something appeared that wasn't there before. And then finally you're like, what am I doing? I'm not even hungry. Have
right.
you ever done that?
Oh, I've done it. I've done it often. I do it often. I do it often.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a pattern. It's just a
It's
pattern
it
recognition. Like you've just wired yourself to say, okay, well, I'm in the kitchen, so let me just check and see what's here. And you're
yeah.
right.
It's
It's
like that smooth pathway that I think he was talking about. And it's like, man, we as adults, we do the same thing. As
mhm,
soon as we have a down moment, are you the person who, naturally just picks up the phone? You're not actually going to your phone as a tool. I need to go look at something. It's
right,
your default mechanism, you
right.
know. You think about like waking up. Are you waking up every morning and the first thing you do is like, oh, let me grab my phone? And it's not because you need it. It's just because you've wore out that pathway,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Imagine
Yeah,
that on a child.
right, right. And he talks about the like the unpredictable results, right? So when you are, when you post something, whether it's a video, whatever it is, but you post something, you don't know what the feedback's going to be. You don't know what the comments are,
Hmm.
likes, how many followers, whatever it may be. And so when you go to the phone and check, you don't know what the results are going to be. So
Right.
so that guessing game is how they hook you, right? It's like gambling, right? When you pull that lever in a slot machine, you don't know what the result's going to be. And so just
Hmm.
that anticipation keeps you hooked. And
Yeah.
these designers of these platforms are smart enough, and some of them have even said it, where they
Hmm.
have designed it to keep you engaged in their platforms by you're not knowing what the result's going to be, which is,
He said, he
genius.
said in his, oh, it is. He said in his example, or in the study with the cats, that to your point, after they learned that all I need to do is jump into this cage, as soon as I get there, I go and, hit this lever, if you will, and as a result, I get a reward. That when they changed it, meaning that the cat went in and they hit the lever, if you will, and they didn't get the reward, that they didn't stop. They just kept hitting it more. And he compared it to like gambling. It's why gambling, even though you get a little bit of a win, you get that dopamine hit, you can't let it go. You got to keep playing and play. It's why people don't leave when they get their first winnings,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just because it's that need, it's
Right.
that dopamine hit that you're chasing so much. Well, it is true with these notifications. You take a young child who has put a post out there, and in the back of their mind, I'm going to transition this into fragmentation. In the back of their mind, they're wondering, okay, has anybody looked at it? Has anybody liked it? Has anybody shared? I mean, Lord have mercy, we as adults do that,
Right.
when we're putting
Mm-hmm.
stuff out there. The other issue here with the addiction, Mo, is the never ending stream of interruption and the
Oh gosh.
constant fragmentation of attention. This one's a big one.
Yeah.
Um, the ability to focus. Okay, now, uh, I sit in front of a computer screen at the office, and by computer screen I mean I sit in front of five computer screens. And I understand the challenges of what he's talking about here with fragmentation, right? The truth is people cannot do two things at one time.
No, you can't.
They can't. Matter of fact, to prove that thought, if you think you can, there was there's not a study, but an example that's on YouTube. You could look it up where a gentleman says, "I'm going to play two things at one time. I'm going to play a script of a poem, and then I'm also going to play a song." And he plays it. It's less than 15 seconds. And at the end, he says, "Can you tell me the first sentence in both the poem and the song?" And nobody can ever do it. And
Mm.
he says, because at the end of the day, your brain can't focus on two things. So what happens is because of the addiction, and because of that pathway that's just been worn out, you have a child who is 13 years old trying to prepare for an exam, trying to get, to learn a subject or a topic. And while they're staring at their book, trying to focus, their phone's flipped upside down. Okay, like that's a great method. Flipped upside down on the table. But in the back of their mind, they can't get there.
We
They
can't let it
can't
out.
lock in because of all they're fragmented in their thought, and that thing keeps pulling at their brain, competing for their attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is why James, Pastor James mentions, if you're reading the Bible, he prefers you reading an actual physical copy of the Bible versus reading the Bible on an app, because
Hmm.
the app will allow, just gives you that slight ability to distract yourself.
Yeah.
Both of us use this notepad, you know,
Hmm.
and it's literally just a digital notepad. It's not an iPad. It's not any other of these tablets where you can have access to the internet, where you can be distracted. It's literally just a digital notepad. And I like that idea because it's just keeping me focused on what I need to do. And
Yeah.
I think the fragmentation is probably why that's the spike in ADHD is there, right? Because
Hmm.
their pathways are being worn out,
Yeah.
where the kids can't just focus on one thing. They have their minds are you're right. They're competing. Their minds are competing in two or three or four different spaces.
Yeah. And the source of that competition is backed by billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
Like who's gonna win? You know what I mean? Um, and it's important because they're learning something going through those adolescent years called executive function. And executive function is the cognitive ability to lock in your thought process to a topic or an activity that's going to generate a reward that you're trying to accomplish. So as an example, I want to become a better basketball player. And as a result, I need to have this in place so I need to be able to perform, these activities, wake up every morning, put a basketball in my hand, dribble for 30 minutes, go shoot free throws at 10 o'clock or whatever in the afternoon, knock down 100 free throws, then whatever. So executive function is absolutely necessary for these kids to develop. And the problem is you're seeing that inability to really thrive in that capacity. These kids they want to be better in certain areas of their life, but the competition for their time and
Mm,
their energy and their thought is being really, in my opinion, it's being ripped away from them outside of their control ultimately because a 13-year-old shouldn't have to battle against what they're having to battle against.
right.
You know, um, they just shouldn't. They shouldn't. It's a kid should be able to just have the freedom to go and do and what they I think naturally want to do is
Hmm.
to become better at the skill set in which they embrace. And I spend a lot of time talking to my boys about this. I say, look, at the end of the day, you know what you're looking to accomplish out of life, right? Especially in this
Hmm.
season of life. And so, if you are, whatever you're looking to do, I got kids that out of my three boys, they play football, they play golf, they play basketball, they play baseball. They've got, some solid social friends, social groups. They're involved in church. They're looking to, Drew's about to be a part of the Bartow leadership program.
Right.
And so I'm like, look, okay, you guys are plugged in. And what you want to do, I know, because you talk about it so much, is to be the best you can be in these areas of that you participate in. Um, and the problem is to get to be the not maybe not the best, but to definitely improve in those areas, you have to do it away from those areas, right? You have to shoot the free throws at the house so that
Hmm.
you can be better when you're on the court in front of all your friends and school and students and parents, at the gym.
Right.
And and what's robbing you from the 30 or 40 minutes that you really want to go out there and do is the 30 or 40 minutes that you spent swiping a phone that you completely didn't even know you invested that much time in.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's to me it's not good.
Yeah. It's not because in some aspects, they're looking for engagement, right? They're looking to engage, and the problem is that's where the play base and the phone base comes into play, where
Right.
you can take example of trying to shoot free throws or whatever. You can get a couple of your buddies, especially if they're close by, engage, have that social engagement, and at the same time, shoot some free throws, play some basketball, and you're able to do both in that aspects, right? But when you've deprived yourself of that social interaction, and you're striving and seeking what you need. It's that healthy. Are you shooting some deer back there? What's going on?
Ah,
Ah,
4th of
when,
July week, baby.
when
Getting
you're
those
when
fireworks started early.
oh Jake, I'm sure that was Jake. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, when you're seeking that engagement, and all you've done is and what you've built that engagement around is these devices. It's just not a healthy mix. And so yeah, all
right.
your attention is just being is being um, the competition for your attention on these devices is, you can't fight it.
Yeah,
You cannot fight that on your own. These kids cannot fight it on their own. They need
yeah,
their parents to help them with it.
yeah, and 100%. On to the last topic for today, which is the challenge for girls.
And this is
Um,
this is really hit me hard because you're having
I'm
the
sure.
conversation with your boys. I'm having this conversation with Liv. She's 14, and
Hmm.
I'm having these conversations with her even before this book, but now I'm able to bring some statistics, right? Bring some more than just a parent's point of view. I'm actually bringing some scientific research to it to validate my point to her.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I feel bad, man, because you look at, well, first off, I think the message that needs to be put out there is obviously one of identity, for girls. Once again, this is so much bigger than social media. This is not even,
Right.
social media is a small piece to the bigger issue. Um, but the identity for these young girls, knowing who they are,
Hmm.
knowing who created them, knowing their value and their importance, their role in life is so darn necessary. And the problem is all of those are going to be filled with something. Something's going
Hmm.
to be the source of their identity.
Right.
Something is going to let them know their true beauty. And what happens is it's either, some jackwagon on social media or some, group of friends that are, degrading a young girl, whatever. It's uh it's just I feel like these young girls are battling once again in areas that they really shouldn't be. You know, um, they shouldn't. Why in the world should a 13-year-old girl uh, be challenged with an adult man making
Mm.
statements or comments on social media?
Hmm.
You know,
You're right. You're
like
right. I
I'm gonna
mean,
be honest with you, that burns me up just thinking about it. Like, if you're that guy, I would love to just give you my personal house address. You know, like just like what I mean, what
yeah.
they we shouldn't be living in a world that has it anyway. But at the end of the day, because we do, like parents, your children shouldn't be facing these battles. They shouldn't be.
Right.
They're too young. You
Hmm.
know.
And this is where
Um,
we talk about the challenges that girls are facing on social media, and boys. Next chapter we'll see how boys are facing the challenges more on I'm assuming like on a video game space. But when he talked about agency versus communion, girls have this need for communion, basically fitting in a group, fitting in a society, where men have an agency where it's more about the individual themselves. And so if you think about it that way, then a girl's experience on social media is to build as many likes, followers, comments, community, or build as much of a community
mhm.
as possible, which means if I can get more followers, I'm probably more accepted. I'm doing it better than everyone else. I'm succeeding in social media because I have more followers. Well, more followers lead to more engagement, more anonymity, if I'm saying it correctly. And so all of a sudden you have followers you've never met before. It could be men of any age. And if your idea is to get more popular, then I have to one up, one up, one up, one up. And so you start to put you and if you're attracted to this unrealistic goal of perfection, right? So maybe it's more bathing suit photos, maybe it's more filtering to make yourself look more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
You've gained yourself more
Mm-hmm.
exposure, more followers, which could lead to just predatory men on your like in your at your midst. and and it's just disgusting, right?
Well,
And you wouldn't
and
have
it
that.
and it this the social prescribed. Oh, sorry, I think there's a delay. My bad, Mo.
No, no, it's fine.
I I think the socially prescribed perfectionism that you're referencing.
Right,
Um, it's these young girls obviously motivated because they care about their appearance. They care about, you know, being validated in that way. So they end up, doing things that otherwise they really probably wouldn't have done
right,
to get that validation. And I think for a father who is parenting all boys, what I would say to my friends and to anybody is that your sons need to be corrected and reminded that every every single person, and oh my gosh, I'm about to get hit by a sprinkler. Every single person, and specifically young girl, is absolutely beautiful.
right,
Period. There's nothing that needs to be done. We shouldn't be, as adult men, we shouldn't be, in my opinion, we shouldn't be motivating this industry of modification.
hmm
Our wives need to be modified to look like, what are we talking about?
right,
You don't need fake nothing.
right.
Fake nothing.
No,
I'll never forget I forget, no, it was on a reel, but I can't remember who said it, but he said, when you get married, your wife um, is your standard. Period.
right,
That is the highest standard.
hmm
And so in her own way. And so there's no other need for that to change, to be modified to something different. No, that's the standard that I want. That's me. That's what I desire, is you and who you are. And so us guys, we got to be careful too,
hmm
motivating and sponsoring this initiative that we as men are looking for something particular.
right,
Bigger lips, bigger butt, bigger boobs. Like, what are we talking about?
right,
Get rid of that
right,
nonsense, and our young boys need to be taught that. Of course, I'm sure we're going to talk about next week that
hmm
our boys are challenged because they're viewing things that are of specific ways, and
yeah.
shouldn't be that way.
Jordan Peterson says something along the lines of, your wife is who she is and who she can be based off what you say to her. And if you're saying, if
Yep.
you're putting these negative, well, I won't call it negative, I think they're negative, but if you're putting these other thoughts in her mind about
Hmm.
what your new quote unquote standard of beauty is, then that's going to impact who she is and what she can be. And if she's not going to be accepting of who she is, then she's going to say, "Well, I feel like I'm not up to par of what you want. My beauty. I'm not as beautiful. I need to do this. I need to modify this. I need to change the way I look on social media. I need to add this filter. I need to smooth out my skin. I need to do all this stuff because my husband finds this attractive, not me." And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, you've rewired your wife. And so, yeah, you're right.
And
Us.
not only that, Mo, you've rewired, right? She's been rewired in thinking that she needs to be presented a different way while you're raising, two daughters or a son, and now they're saying, okay, well, as a daughter, I need to be looking like this. Okay, this is
Hmm.
my job, is to be turned into something that I'm not naturally. And as a boy, you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I need to find someone that can be look this certain way. Like it's we live in a world where I couldn't agree more with what this is talking about. We've lived in a world that has always um, involved some of the elements that we're talking about. It's social media and technology that has just put fuel on the fire. A lot of this has been there. We've always, we've challenged as human beings forever with some of these issues, but definitely has it been magnified
Yeah.
because of it, and now magnified in the world of a teen, which is just, it's a sad thing. So, that said, it just more education and more knowledge to not just think about, but to do something about. And I think,
Hmm.
here on our show, Mo and I, with Beyond Tomorrow, is to say, hey, if you're raising a child, and your goal is thinking beyond tomorrow, that you want this young daughter or this young man in your house to grow up to be high caliber individuals, to be confident, not prideful, to be humble, to be thoughtful, to be intentional, then you need to protect them today, and you need to be and point them in their understanding of their identity, um, of their belief, of their beauty, their physical presence. Mom, dad, you need to be the source of that. So that said, Mo, you got anything else? I'm about to get
No.
attacked by a dog.
No, no. Great discussion as always. Great book. Love it. Um, yeah, no, man. Have a great fourth. And we miss you here in
Yeah.
Georgia. And we see everyone next week.
All right, man. We'll be back. See
All
you
right.
soon. Take
See
care.
ya.